What's going on, everybody? It's Nick from Gematria Decoded, back with my second video. I hope who has seen the first one, I hope if you haven't seen it, you take the time to watch it, share it with your friends, ask them what they think about it, because at the end of the day, what this really is all about is spreading the word and trying to get the information to people who aren't aware of it, because you can say what you want about the work, but if you're going to criticize it, you should look into it first before you make any assumptions about it. And that's the problem. One of the main problems that I've noticed about just people in general is that they like to criticize things just because it doesn't align with what their preconceived notions of the world are. And with something like Gematria, which is what I'm going to be showing in this video, it seems to be a farce to them because they don't understand what it means. They don't understand where it comes from. It's like an ant looking at a building and trying to understand what it is. It would take the ant, a million lifetimes to be able to garner up enough information and knowledge to be able to look at the building and be like, oh, I understand what this is. And that's what gematria is. It's been around for thousands of years, thousands. It goes back to the Babylonians and probably even before. So for people to be dismissive without doing the proper research, it's just a flawed train of thought. And that goes with anything in science. Do people who like to defend science, one of the main things that they say is, "Oh, you haven't done enough research. You haven't looked into these topics. You haven't been able to formulate your own hypotheses." So I don't want to rant anymore. Um, okay, Jay-Z, right, Mr. New York, Rock Nation, made a Yankee hat more famous than a Yankee can. That's his words. That's his words. So obviously Jay-Z and New York, very clear connection, right? So I titled this, and I made this post October 14th, 2020, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through some of my old posts on my Instagram page just because I think the information is pretty interesting, but again, that's up for you to decide. So Jay-Z and his album The Blueprint released 9/11/2001, obviously the infamous date in New York where the World Trade Centers were struck by American Airlines flights, um, reportedly by Osama bin Laden and Al Qaeda. That's the mainstream. Um, I guess, what would you say? I guess that would be the mainstream narrative of the events. So let's get this going. So I wrote The Blueprint, released 9/11/2001, an album of such a peculiar name, which came out on the most fateful of days, symbolic of the blueprint, which has been impacting our lives since that day. And I list the Wikipedia, all the information about it. You can see it very clearly. September 11th, 2001, Baseline Studios, New York City. Jay-Z, Just Blaze Records, and Kanye West. Okay, so boom, just right off the bat. There we go. So I'm just going to read off of this. Another point I would like to emphasize is the names of the first two songs, The Ruler's Back and Takeover. Now, the eerie symbolism of these coming out on this day is representative again of a changing world and the contrived coming of a new age. To further prove this, we can analyze the gematria behind the names and who the real ruler is. And just looking at those two names, the ruler's back and takeover, it seems to be more than meets the eye. It seems to be symbolic in a way. The ruler is back, and there's a takeover. And for this album, with these two track titles to be released on September 11th, 2001, it seems beyond coincidence. Don't you agree? Something else that I'm just noticing now about it, I think it's interesting that they have the two titles relating to some sort of takeover or an emphasis on some sort of power structure. It being the first two songs, and obviously two was a very important number on that day. The two towers, So I thought that's pretty interesting. And if you follow Zach's research on Gematria Effect News, and if you don't, I highly suggest you do check it out. But what he talks about is how the Jesuits are the ones who are using this code to contrive news events, politics, sports, pretty much most of the everything I say that we see in the mainstream. And crazy as it seems, every day it's just on point, on point. I mean, today, just talking about the Derek Chauvin trial with the 22.5 years on the 225th day of the year. And then when George Floyd died, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was the day leaving 225 days left in the year. And the same day or the day after, it was reported that the Minnesota Catholic Diocese shelled out $225 million in reparations. So, just anyway, the ruler's back. 3 minutes, 51 seconds. And Gematria is a Hebrew practice. And in Hebrew, you read right to left. So this could be interpreted as 153. And when you write out Jesuit order, it equals 153. And it said the Jesuits being an entity represented in this nation's capital longer than the federal government, whom many historians contended were the instigators of the Confederacy during the Civil War, proving their nature. More on them in posts to come, which I have talked about. And I said, to the reader, look into how many pertinent people in the mainstream are Jesuits, such as Anthony Fauci and Donald Trump. And there's more to that list. Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, Cuomo, all these guys are Jesuits. All these pertinent figures, especially during the time of the pandemic, all Jesuits. I mean, Pope Francis, first Jesuit Pope. Yeah. And then this is where it's like, okay, takeover. Just the name alone, okay. Takeover equals 119, just like 11/9, like 9/11. I said, now, for in my opinion, the most undeniable aspect of this post, the fact that the second song, indicative of the two towers which fell that day, Takeover, equates to 119. And I can actually go to that Fox News post. I'll show that after I'm done talking about this. And in that, I just go over, what it means and everything. But Takeover, 119 and 47. And see, it also has the 97 and the 34. And you see things like death, 97, right? Murder has the 79, which is, again, that inverse. And it also has the 34. So, and obviously, a lot of death did happen on that day. And you can argue it was murder. Well, it was murder. Regardless of which point of view you look at it as, it was murder. So, and it has that 47. Obviously, 4 plus 7 breaks down to 11, just like 119 breaks down to 11. And obviously, New York is the 11th state, September 11th, 11 being the master number, like I just said. So the Twin Towers look like massive 11s. And then going back to that 2, 1 plus 1 is 2. And talking about the 2 songs, the 2 towers, etc. So it's, I don't know. I mean, what are the odds? What are the odds that this album comes out September 11th? And let me show this. Okay, let's go to this. I believe the album is called I Am the World Trade Center. It's the artist. Okay, look at this. This is crazy. The cover up. That's funny. Okay, Out of the Loop. This album came out in 2001. And it's titled it's by the band I Am the World Trade Center. I'm not aware of this band. I haven't listened to any of the music. This was pointed out to me by somebody. But, I mean, again, it's the same exact pattern. I Am the World Trade Center releases an album in 2001. And when you look through this album, you see that the 11th track is titled September. So 11 and September, 11/9, 9/11, 2001. And it's called Out of the Loop. And I think that also is pretty symbolic, being how people are not really aware of this information, not aware what it is, not even aware that these things could possibly even be going on, because the aspect or their mentality is that something like this is too grand. There could never be a conspiracy or anything along the lines of that, because Again, going back to what I said initially, it doesn't align with their preconceived notions. So, and the cover up, I didn't even see this. I mean, come on. And going back to this, they have stars next to certain popular songs. I'm gonna click on this, see how long the song is. So it's 3 minutes, 31 seconds, 100, like 133. President's 133. White House is 133. So, I mean, and then you got that 47 again, just like the Jay-Z album. So, and obviously White House is 137, the 33rd prime, and New York, excuse me, what the hell? I don't know what's going on. New York is 33 and 39, 111. And as for 111, September 11th is the day leaving, 111 days left in the year. So, again, it's just another alignment. Perfect. Another perfect alignment. And it's just like, what is this? I mean, how is it possible? Is it magic? Is it formulated beforehand? Are these people all in on it? Do they even know what's going on? And when you use Sumerian, I think Sumerian, New York is 666, just like the number of the beast written in Revelation. Revelation being the 66th book of the Bible. Man created on the sixth day. I mean, LeBron going back to number 6 this year as he's 36 years old. 36, like 36, 666. And LeBron, right? LeBron is 33. It's just. And LeBron is 66 too. LeBron James is also. I don't mean to get onto LeBron James. I'm just pointing it out. LeBron James is also 66. Anyway, I was happy with this post when I looked into it. I didn't know that September 11th. I didn't know Jay-Z released this album on September 11th. So when I found that out, I'm like, are you kidding me? The Blueprint. I haven't looked at this. Look at that. The Blueprint 66. I didn't even realize that. Oh my goodness. Crazy. Crazy. Just what we were just talking about. I was just talking about that. There's something to the 174. Is it Number of the Beast? I think it is. I didn't plan this out. Number of the Beast, 174 and 66. Oh my gosh. Just like, I honestly didn't know this. I swear. Just like the Blueprint. Oh my god, excuse me. Just 174, 66. Unreal. Unreal. And I also made a post with New York. I'll talk about that later. But going back to what I said I was going to talk about, Fox News, September 11th, 2020. Trump pays tribute to the extraordinary sacrifice of Americans who lost their lives on September 11th. And extraordinary sacrifice equals 119 in Pythagorean Gematria. One of the 4 base ciphers that are used every single day. It's not a stretch. It's a base system. Just like any math class you would take, you learn about the basic core elements of algebra or geometry or trigonometry or calculus or stats. It's all laid out. So extraordinary, and just the fact that they say extraordinary sacrifice, it's like, what does he mean by that? Trump pays tribute to the extraordinary sacrifice of Americans who lost their lives. Now, okay, okay, I understand. Never mind. He was talking about the policemen and women and firefighters. At least I think, but again, it's the double-edged swords with these captions, and just the fact that it equals 119, it shows it's more than meets the eye. So, I'm trying to think. Is there anything else I want to talk about? I can't believe that with the Blueprint, 174.66. What else did I want to talk about with September 11th? Oh, okay. I'll talk about the 47. So, again, I said 4 plus 7. It breaks down to 11. New York being the 11th state, September 11th. Pentagon construction began September 11th. 1941, I want to say. Don't quote me on 41, but it might be. George Bush gave the quote, that gave the speech about a new world order on September 11th. I think it was 10 years before. Maybe it was 11. So it's just these consistent patterns. Let's see, New World Order. New World Order. Oh my God. I swear I did not plan this out. New World Order also equals 174 and 177 and 69 and yeah, Jesuit Order is 177 and 69. It's also 201. September 11th, they say 102 minutes of terror. And yeah, the unreal. Unreal. Yep, yep. And Drake's Jumpman is referring to the Jumping Man 9/11. So I'm just going to read some of these comments. And then I point out that Jumpman equals 25 and 38. And obviously, death is 25 and 38. And I think the comment about the One World Trade, the I and the, yeah, here it is. And I said, wow, amazing. Thank you for the information. So it's a community. Everyone works together. Everyone does the right thing. Jesuit order motto for the greater glory of God equals 351, the 26 triangular number. And 26 is a number of God. And is it, what was it, 26? Okay, excuse me, never mind. Yeah, number of God. 26. These people are playing God, you know? What else do I want to talk about? I'm trying to think if there's more. And then just another thing with 9/11. 9/11 and the number 77. So they say Flight 77 on this took off, and from the time it took off to the time it hit was a span of 77 minutes. So Flight 77 on a span of 77 minutes hit the 77-foot Pentagon, and September 11th, I can't spell. September 11th equals 77. So Flight 77 hit the 77-foot Pentagon on the 77th meridian, and I'm forgetting something. Flight 77. And September 11th equals 77, and World Trade Center equals 77. And World Trade Centers equals 102, just like the 102 minutes of terror. 102 being the inverse of 201, the Jesuit order equals 201. 78, New York, 78. It's just, I don't know. I don't know how they do this stuff. I really don't. Is it all coincidence? I don't think so. Jesuit equals 78. It's just like, it can't be coincidence, right? I mean, how is it that the biggest event in New York's history, being September 11th, happens on the 111th day of the year, and New York equals 111? And again, going back to Gematria Effect News, Zachary Hubbard, who at least put me onto this knowledge, he learned it from Manly P. Hall. He predicted that the New York Mets would make it to the 111th World Series just by using this code, because New York is 111. And that game, or that series against the Royals, basically ended on November 1st, 11/1. And I believe it was Matt Harvey. I don't know if this is, I'm going to take Zach's word for it here, because I haven't seen the footage of it, but I'm sure I could find it on YouTube. But it was Matt Harvey who threw his 111th pitch to Eric Hosmer at the time, who was the first baseman for the Kansas City Royals, who came up with a 111 batting average, who hit a double into the gap that led to the winning run that pretty much wiped out the Mets' possibilities of winning the World Series. So, I mean, just to call that out, I mean, come on. The Mets, in 2015, the Mets were not a title contender. They were not even considered to make the playoffs. And just to call it out using this, it's just like, okay. And I also believe that game 3, the final score was 9-3, and he predicted that before the game. And that can also obviously be written as 3-9, like 39, like New York. And New York, NY, NYC, Empire, 39. Am I forgetting something? Oh, yeah, New York. How you would write it on a map. New York, NY, 93 and 39. It's just like, come on, man. The first governor of New York was George Clinton, and George equals 39. I don't think Clinton does. It does. It does. Clinton equals 33, 39, 102, 87. I mean, these are all numbers we're talking about in this video. Come on, man. Come on. 87, just like this. 78, New York, 78. Mm. And you just watch New York sports. You'll see how often the score becomes 3-3 or 3-9 or I'm sure even 11-1. I think it was the game before or the 2 games before September 11th in 2001. The Yankees won with 9 runs and 11 hits. And I also think it was in 2018 the Mets did the same thing. The Mets won with 9 runs and 11 hits. And people just don't see it. I think the Mets and Yankees are playing on 9/11 this year, so we'll see what happens. It's definitely going to be some sort of ritual that goes on. I hate to say it, but it's definitely true. So yeah, George Clinton. And you see George Clinton's got the 144, just like Jesuit Order is 144, and the 72, and 207, just like 72, and Jesuit Order is 72 and 144. So I'm just showing you like these patterns with the Jesuits and their numbers. It's just it's undeniable. It really is. I mean, I showed you so many things in this video that I just found out as I was making this video. Like, I didn't. What did I point out? What did I point out? It was with the blueprint. I didn't realize this. I mean, it's crazy. I did not realize that the blueprint equaled 66 and the 174, just like Number of the Beast, and how New York equals 666. And obviously, this happened in New York on the 11th day, where 11 is the master number. So, yeah, it's crazy. Took this screenshot from the 2020 presidential debate where Trump went against Biden, obviously, where it was meant to be that Biden would, of course, become the 46th president, right? I mean, come on, it was destined because Catholic equals 46. And the only other Catholic president was JFK, who was the 35th president, who was assassinated at age 46. So 35 and 46, boom. Joe Biden's son, died at age 46. Ruth Bader Ginsburg died 46 weeks before the election. And that was a big mainstream talking point. Or was it 46 days? Not 46 weeks, excuse me. 46 days. And I believe I looked this up. You have to take my word for it. But Joe Biden, the first debate was 46 days before his birthday. And I looked at that and I'm like, okay, that's it. So, and the president's got the 47, of course. I talked about that in my previous video. I'm going to do a 47 video on the biblical meaning of it, 47 and 74, because I think it'll really bring it together. And I like how the time is 11:47 right now. I'm not playing this out, people, I swear. And you just try to tell this stuff to people, man. They don't listen. They don't listen. And it all goes back to what I said in the beginning. If it doesn't align with what people think the world is all about, they're not going to listen. And why is that? I think it's a myriad of things, but it's fear, it's conditioning to not want to believe in things that are, again, outside of your train of thought, outside of your spectrum that you are capable or wanting to observe. So I just wish people were more open-minded. That's all it's about. If everyone was more open-minded and everyone took the time to listen to each other and have respect for each other and their opinions, I think this stuff would spread a lot easier. I mean, when did I start this account? June 20th, 2020. And I'm great. I have a solid amount of followers. And I think all these people are grateful for the work that I put out. But it's also on them for taking the time to listen to me. And I'm grateful for that. Because I'm telling you right now, there's a lot of people in my life who I try to explain this stuff to, and they just don't want to listen. And it's sad because it's like they're just disregarding you and not listening to your opinion. I mean, with anything else, people are even with anything in life, honestly though, people do not listen to each other. Like you'll be at a party, sitting at a table, sitting around a fire with a bunch of people. Everyone's going back and forth talking. People just don't listen to each other. Someone talks, their point of view is completely disregarded, and then the other person just starts talking without having any connection with what the person previous just said. So I think this is just how people are. I don't think it's innately how people are. I think it's just how things have evolved and people have been conditioned since, honestly, the Industrial Revolution, obviously with the radio, the TV, just all these things that have made people to be more subservient and to, be scared to voice their opinion because look what happens to people who voice their opinions. You look in the 60s, you got people like JFK, Bobby Kennedy, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, all these people that spoke out against really serious things, killed, murdered. And, people think it's a lone gunman or whatever, but at the end of the day, through this, you can see what's really going on. So, I think I'm going to leave that there. Again, Jay-Z, and I went off on a tangent, I definitely did, but I think it was all good information. But Jay-Z and his album, The Blueprint, 9/11, 2001. I mean, just that. Completely disregard the Gematria. Just that alone. It's like The Blueprint. And the first two songs are called The Rulers Back in Takeover. That's the other thing I wanted to say. The moon, and the moon operates on a 19-year cycle. And obviously, 9/11, you got the 19 in there. But you can look this up. Guaranteed you'll find it. Thomas Jefferson is quoted as saying, in order to sustain a democracy, you need to have a revolution every 19 years. And why did he say that 19 years? Well, using this knowledge, I think it's because the moon operates on a 19-year cycle. And from 2001 to 2020, obviously a span of 19 years. And what happened in 2020? We had the COVID pandemic, right? And all the stuff with George Floyd and New York. And George Floyd was basically the biggest, besides coronavirus, the biggest talking point of all this. And George Floyd, 119, boom, right in your face. And again, it's George, just like George Clinton, the 39, you see? George Floyd. And, look at this, William Perry. This is his full name, right? I think it is. William Perry. I'm sorry, what is his full name? Oh, is George Perry Floyd. Excuse me. George Perry Floyd. His full name. 201 and 102. And I was just talking about 201 and 102. And the 69, that's the Jesuit number. So, okay. I'm done ranting. I'm sorry. I hope everyone enjoyed the video. Hope everyone shares the video. Take notes if you want. Try to reverberate the things that I was saying in this video if you want. Because it's very simple to follow. It's not extravagant or off the edge. It's point blank. It's showing you a clear pattern of numbers and showing how they all come back to relate to this certain event. So I'm going to leave that there. Thanks for watching. And it's been Nick from Gematria Decoded. Thanks for watching, guys.